That was a great session. I had a lot of fun, and
Ah,
I think I speak for all of us when I say we can't wait for next week.
awesome. I'm happy you had a good time. I had a good time running it. Do you have an idea of what you might want to do? I know we had the goblin camp that we talked about. The ogres are causing some trouble, and then there was also the trolls that were in the swamp. Or I don't know, maybe even something different.
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to talk about it in the player chat and everything like that, and
Yeah,
we'll figure it out.
yeah, that
We got
makes
time.
sense. Just if you can, just try to give me a little heads up because it helps make things a little easier to know what to prep.
Yeah, I mean, you're the DM. Yeah, yeah, we'll talk about it. So yeah.
All right, so new session here. What have you decided? What do you want to do next?
Okay, all right. So get this. We decided we have all this gold, all of these coins, and
Okay.
a couple things we needed to get appraised too, right? So we decided we're gonna go into the city, a big city, and we're gonna see all the sights. We're gonna have a shopping day. We're gonna go to the spa. Probably gonna go to a tavern. We're gonna go see all these great names of buildings and stores and that kind of thing. Meet all these wonderful NPCs. Sell some things. Buy some things. Make
Yeah.
some friends and just have a good time.
Okay. That is actually never. Did you send that text? Because I actually prepared the ogres, the goblins, and the trolls just in case, because I didn't know what you were gonna
Oh,
do.
well, you said like if we thought of anything else that we wanted to do too, so we just figured, it's player driven. So let's do something.
Right, player driven. That's my goal. Okay. So this week we're gonna be talking about how a player prepares for a session because it actually has a pretty big impact on the game. So stick around. We got a good one for you.
Everybody, I'm Josh. This is Jake. Welcome to another J&J Tabletop video. In this one, we're going to be talking about how a player can prepare for a session. You've probably seen a million videos or at least a million thumbnails about how a DM can prepare for a session. Personally, I don't think I've ever seen one for how a player can, and I think it's important. What are your thoughts on that, Jake?
A healthy game, it's got a lot of moving parts and it really does take everybody. And the intro I know we had some fun with, but it actually can put a lot of unnecessary stress on the DM. And I today we're going to talk about like a little bit of how DM burnout can happen, why railroading might even happen, and just little tips and tricks, tidbits, if you will, that a player can do and the group of players at the table can really contribute to making everything kind of run nice and smoothly.
I think we'll probably get more into DM burnout and railroading each specifically in their own video, but we're definitely going to touch into how this can contribute to that.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, what do you think is the first thing on your list of like what a player can or should do to prepare for a session?
Before I even get into anything, I just want to kind of throw out a disclaimer about like all of the tips and advice that we're going to give here in this video is not ever meant to have something like this take over your life. This is a game. So if you have literally just a half an hour in between sessions that you can give to this, then that's all you have. And that's fine. But that half an hour can actually make everything very meaningful. So
Yeah.
feel free to comment on anything. And while you're down there, might as well hit that subscribe button too.
Let me throw this out there for you too. And even if it's not a half, even if it's 10 minutes, whatever. If you're a player and you have a problem with like spending 10 to 15 minutes to half an hour on that, think about what your DM does because the DM is expected to prepare all of this stuff for the next session every week outside of the actual session where they're running the entire game. I don't think it's that crazy to expect a player to put in a fraction of that amount of time in. There's just a level of respect.
Yeah.
If you have respect for your other players at the table and respect for your DM, you try to just help it run a little bit smoother.
At the end of the day, it just comes down to good communication. What's going on in your life? What's going on in everybody else's life? But
Hmm.
that's a topic for another video. But as far as things that you can do to prepare as a player, first and foremost, this might not even be something you do every session. Whatever level you are, I think it's good to, you don't actually have to know what you're going to take specifically the next time you level up, but just have an idea about the options available to you because Who knows? Maybe you level up the next session. You might be creeping in there, might not be. Maybe you want to have clarification from your DM about how something's going to work in your game. Whatever the case may be, just being familiar with your abilities and where you might be headed is good. Again, this doesn't have to be crazy, just having an idea of what everything is, at least that you'd be choosing from, so you make an informed choice.
Yeah, just getting like ideas of things that might be interesting to you. I know there's a lot of people out there that they don't plan out their whole character build, and that's totally fine. I think it's fine if you kind of just let it happen naturally and see where the story takes you. And we've seen that happen, and it can create a really cool experience. But
Mm-hmm.
you should still have some sort of understanding of what options are out there, things you might be interested in, where you feel the story is taking you, and talk to your DM about that at any place that you might have confusion, just to help things move smoothly forward.
The focus of what our intro was hitting on mostly is it's really helpful if you just give the DM a basic idea of what you're going to do the next session, right? So the DM in our intro actually over prepared because he didn't know what was going to happen. And then, of course, they chose what was behind door number 4. So without even throwing a heads up. And this is really, really important because a lot of players, I think it's very easy when they have a DM that's actually very good at what they do to just kind of assume that they know everything that's going on in the world that they're adventuring in. And that's actually a compliment. And it's really something that's special when you have a DM that's good like that. They're also human beings, right? So Critical Role Campaign 2, they just did this like wrap up session not that long ago. And I can't tell you how many times one of the players asked Matt Mercer, "Oh, yeah, you know that thing that we didn't finish or we never explored? What would have happened if we went there?" And he's like, "Well, I have a rough idea." Like, he probably has a piece of paper where he just was like, "Okay, I'm going to just write down like 2 sentences about what would happen if they went to Upper Duke or they went to Port Damali or whatever, wherever they were thinking about, just so he
Mhm.
has something to spark his imagination and or prep time." Because I do things like that all the time. I'm like, "Oh, that sounds cool. I have a Google Doc." Josh knows our content thing is like 50 pages. That's not an exaggeration. But those are all ideas that are meant to be fleshed out at another point in time. And he's just said, I'm not going to flesh something out unless I know you're going to go there because I'm human. And he even said DMs don't go crazy doing stuff when your players might not even explore or even interact with whatever you're going to prepare.
That can be a huge contributing factor to DM burnout. And in this case, I think that would be on the DM too. If you're over preparing and
Yep,
you're going crazy on all of these things and
absolutely.
details and places that might not even come up, or if they do come up, it'll be very surface level. I think exactly what you said. Like, I like to jot down a few sentences and that kind of thing. And if it's something very important, I will note who is interested in that. And then if it comes up, then based on what you know about those people, what you know about the item or the place or whatever, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to figure it out. But if it doesn't come up, then it's just something that's there. But if you're just spending all of your time, like hours with your campaign Bible and
Yeah.
all of these, like you built out Witcher 3, and you have, oh, if you talk to this
Oh,
person, they'll do that, and then if you say this, then that, then that, then and if then, and if then, and if then, and then it's like
yeah.
that's a lot. And it's going to be really disappointing when your players ultimately don't end up doing that entire quest line.
It's almost like sitting there thinking like you're at a restaurant, right? The DM is like the chef in the back, but he's got to prepare for everybody that comes to the table. So he's got this massive menu that is ready to roll when you show up. Well, that doesn't happen when you're at home cooking a meal for 5 people. The meal is prepared. There's one meal that everybody's going to share, and there might be some tweaks here and there based on whatever, but it makes that job easier, and the meal is still awesome and the fellowship is still great. So it's one of those things that it's like everybody's a human being. You have a limited amount of time to make this game fun and great and engaging. So everybody just pitches in and does their part, and you actually can get an amazing product with don't want to say minimal effort. I want to say like efficient and intelligent effort, because it's just the way that would go. I mean, going off script can be fun, you know, so like the shopping episode, that could be fun, and that can encourage players to be like, yeah, this is great. Let's just keep winging it. The DM's awesome. The DM's pulling their hair out because I just want them to do something I prepared, but I don't want to railroad them, because DM is going to then be tempted to just kind of say, no, I prepared this thing for you, and you have to go and do the thing I did because,
yep,
damn it, you're going to do one thing I prepared for you.
If your DM is trying to give you options and your players are really not working with them, well, if the DM doesn't have a lot of time, they might just prepare the one thing and force players to do that. And sometimes I'm happy to get aboard the train. More often than not, I like one, as a DM, I like to let my players decide where things go. But as a player, I also like to have that agency that we've talked about so many times. But I could totally understand a DM who's been hurt before deciding like,
Oh,
all right, I'm just preparing this one thing, or the classic, which I guess we'll talk more about in a specific railroading video. But the classic, I have prepared this quest line for you, and there are paths A, B, and C, but all roads lead to this one same thing, and I just give you the illusion of choice.
yes. You think A, B, and C are different choices, but they're not.
Yeah. In any aspect, whether of life or games or whatever, if you tell someone that they have a choice and then suddenly they find out that they never had a choice at all, they're probably not going to be happy about that. And it's probably going to taint the experience a little bit. So obviously, players and GMs alike, we're all coming to the table just to have a great time together and create something awesome. So all of these steps, we think that if you take them and if your players just try to do a little bit just to help out with the GM, personally, we think that's going to help avoid burnout and avoid just frustration leading into just saying screw it and railroading and whatever. And we think it'll create a better experience for everyone all around. So if you are a DM out there, we would love to know, do you have a list of things that you ask your players to do to help you out to prepare for the next session? We'd like to hear that in the comments below. And players, if you have anything that you do, whether your DM asked you to do it or not, we'd like to hear about that too. We could exchange notes. So please comment below. Let us know all of those things so we could talk about it and have a good time. Please, if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, and subscribe, and check out the Discord so we could talk all the time. We'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
We're good?
Of course.
This is the switch. Usually it's me.
Normally the guy not who's laughing.
The guy not who's laughing.
Yeah, the English, good. Me fell English? That's impossible.